Time now for sports on 104.7 The Cave. Here's Ned Reynolds.
Mike the intern, Ned Reynolds in the studio on a Tuesday morning now that we've thawed Ned out. I know you got the tea on who MSU might be going for a basketball coach. Who's that?
Well, the rumors came out yesterday, and they're rather substantial rumors, if you can call rumors substantial. But this came from the Four-Letter Network and their key basketball reporter on the several shows they have. He reported that Missouri State was in contract negotiations with Cuonzo Martin to come back as the head coach. Now, it hasn't happened yet. There have been no official announcements, nothing along those lines. So we're going with that statement that was made on national television and on Twitter, or whatever they call Twitter now. But the fact is that, and I've said so on this show, Mike, many times, and on other outlets as well, that the Bears need to return to their roots. They need to go back to someone who has had success, who has established a legacy here, and certainly Cuonzo Martin, if this does come to pass, fits that bill. He's a man who took Missouri State to its only Missouri Valley Conference championship in 2011, the only one they had. And I along with 11,000 other people, was in attendance on the day they won that at what's now the Great Southern Bank Arena. 11,500 to watch the Bears in Wichita State, the most exciting moment ever in the history of that arena, other than, of course, some of the shows they've had in there. But in terms of basketball, Cuonzo coached that team. The Bears won it down the stretch. Kyle Weems, a great star for the Bears. Adam Leonard. These were very, very good players, and the Bears won it. Went to the NIT that year, did not go to the NCAA. But the fact is that Cuonzo does have a legacy with the area. He does have touch with the people. They know him, and maybe that's what the Bears need to rekindle some of the spark in their program. We'll see, even if it does come to pass. It has not happened yet.
It'd be a smart move, but what I'm more surprised at is that you are admitting that you had a better time watching the Eagles play than you did watching the Bears win a championship. I kid, obviously. Or was it Seager? Yeah, that's what I figured. I know you, man. Dodgers star player denies any involvement with gambling, and that's...
I hope he's speaking the truth.
That's what I was going to say, especially after seeing him at the tournament games recently. It kind of makes you wonder.
Shohei Ohtani says he's never, ever at any time bet on games, and this circumstance that came out, he said, hey, my money was stolen by his almost lifetime friend, his interpreter, who is he's Japanese lineage, of course, but he can speak English and does so very well. But apparently, according to the story, the interpreter stole some money to cover the interpreter's debts, not Shohei Ohtani's debts, and they were substantial debts, like maybe $500,000, something along those lines. But the interpreter has since been fired by the Los Angeles Dodgers. He had been with the Dodgers. He'd been with the Angels when Shohei Ohtani was there. This is just a totally sordid incident that can happen. And now there's a new investigation. Doesn't involve baseball. This is in basketball, where a Toronto Raptors player, one Jonte Porter, who went to school at Father Tolton in Columbia, is thought they're being investigated for possible irregularities in his statistics in certain games. That really bothers me.
Could you imagine this guy getting paid that much money and to screw it up like that?
Nope, I cannot.
Makes my head explode just considering it. All right, the St. Louis Cardinals are headed west to build up before their opening day in Los Angeles. How'd they do in Arizona?
Over 48 hours away.
Yeah, I know. We're getting close, my guy. That's the only... I had a feeling you would be in a bad mood with it being as cold as it is, but then I remembered baseball starts in just a few short days, so I'm like, well, maybe that'll balance it out a little.
No, I'm still in a bad mood.
I know. I shouldn't have said anything.
Cardinals stopped off in Mesa, which is a suburb of Phoenix, of course. That's where the Chicago Cubs train, and the Cardinals beat the Cubs yesterday 6-3. They will play again this afternoon, take tomorrow off to complete the trip to Los Angeles, and then open up with the Dodgers on Thursday afternoon. That's a 3 o'clock starting time here. There'll be one out in L.A., and then have 4 games with the Dodgers, 3 more with the San Diego Padres in San Diego, and then head home for a late week opening with the Miami Marlins, and that'll be the second week in April. So, indeed, we have some baseball going on, and the Major League Baseball season opening up in just over 48 hours. Yesterday, the Redbirds got key hits from Nolan Arenado and a pair of RBIs from former Cub Wilson Contreras. They do play again today. Kansas City Royals are not scheduled for any Major League competition. They were to have played in Springdale, Arkansas last night against the Northwest Arkansas Naturals. I must admit, I don't know whether or not the game was completed, because it's cold and rainy down, or was anyway, in Springdale. But nonetheless, the Royals go on to Kansas City, and they opened with the Minnesota Twins on Thursday afternoon as well.
The men had the night off yesterday, but the women did not. How'd they do in the march to the Sweet 16?
This is the other half. The other 8 teams that go to the Sweet 16. The first were established on Sunday, and the other 8 were last night. Some really interesting games. Really, Mike, in all honesty, no major upsets, no surprises. But some of the top-seeded teams did get tested. Notre Dame and North Carolina State moved on, and they're very good teams. But how about UConn? How about the Connecticut Lady Huskies, Gino Auriemma's team, looking for their 16th Sweet 16 berth? That's a record, and they got it. They got it in a tough match with Syracuse. Syracuse is not in their conference anymore. Syracuse plays in the ACC, and Connecticut's in the Big East. But Connecticut beat them by about 10 points, because Connecticut's star player Paige Beckers had 32 points. She's a fine player. So we move on to the Iowa game. Iowa-West Virginia playing, incidentally, the first rounds of these women's games, first 2 games, are on home courts. Home courts of the top-seeded teams are not neutral sites. So Connecticut played at home. Iowa played at home up in Iowa City. Sold-out crowd, top ticket, or let me rephrase that, the least expensive ticket, $250, to sit in the top of the Carver Hawkeye Arena. Having been there, the top of that is a long way off. But everybody wants to see Caitlin Clark, and she didn't disappoint, had 32 points. But watching it with the sound turned down and trying to make my own observations, and boy, officiating doesn't seem to really be consistent in this game. So, as it turns out, I wasn't the only one. There were many on the Twitter, or whatever they call it now, and who made comments about, what on earth, are there 2 separate rules in this game? Then I looked at the stats. There were 27 fouls called on West Virginia. There were 11 called on Iowa. Oh my goodness. Iowa won the game in a close game, had to pull away, but nonetheless, a lot of griping and carrying on. Anyway, out on the West Coast, everybody who was supposed to win did. The UCLA-Creighton game, Creighton was ahead by a lot of points, by double digits in this one, and UCLA came back to win it. But some very interesting matchups coming up now in the ladies' Sweet 16, which begins on Friday.
Very, very interesting, to say the least, and I can definitely understand your emotions if you're a fan of that team.
I don't have a
Not
dog.
you. I'm just saying.
No dog in the hunt. No dog in the hunt
friend.
at all. It's just that the public's comments were reflective of mine, watching it as a neutral observer.
You're not alone. Missouri State baseball Bears are going to be freezing their butt off on that field today. What's the story?
They need to play the game. It's a non-conference game with Southeast Missouri, SEMO from Cape Girardeau, and they're good. SEMO team is very good. Ohio Valley Conference team. Scheduled for 3 o'clock. High temperatures about 45, 46 this afternoon out there. You can play the game in that cold weather, and the Bears need it. They need to get their game back in order. They're 10 wins, 12 losses on the year. This is non-conference, but it's a good time to get things straightened out, and hopefully they can. We'll find out.
Indiana State is in the NIT. How are they doing?
They are the lone representative for the Valley because Bradley, I should say, was knocked out of it. And the team that knocked out Bradley is playing Indiana State tonight. And I love this. The NCAA owns the NIT. They're the ones who govern all the seeding and all the scheduling and so forth. They've looked at the first 2 games, which have been played in Terre Haute, Indiana, at the Holman Center, the arena that Larry Bird built, not literally, but he was there, christened it, of course, when it opened up. And Indiana State's won both those games. Tonight they play Cincinnati, and they play them in Terre Haute, Indiana. Indiana State's won both their games in lopsided fashion. They've played very well. They're a good team. They're the top-seeded team in that region. They get the Cincinnati Bearcats tonight. Cincinnati's a Big 12 conference team going to a Missouri Valley Conference. This will be very interesting to see what happens. I like the Sycamores. They're playing very well.
Ned, you have a wonderful day. Stay warm, and I will throw some blankets on you as you head out the door.